I'm definitely not an old man yet, but I am over 30, and I think a lot sometimes about how I suck at journaling and how cool it would be to be able to look back on certain things in maybe a more digestible format than just a journal. Sometimes I keep a journal, sometimes I'm really good for like a month or something, but this is definitely a more, I don't know, this format of maintaining a log of what I've done or what I'm thinking about is definitely more, not convincing, that's not the right word, but just, I don't know, I think it provides a lot more context than words can in certain aspects. And so my goal here with this like channel overall is to document some of the things that I'm doing just in my day-to-day life, like the things that I enjoy doing, cycling and diving and traveling and all that stuff. And it's not really it's more to hopefully develop a community to talk about these things. And especially, like, for example, I think, I don't want this channel to be so specific to scuba diving, but I see a need in the scuba diving community because there are a ton of advanced divers, right? You have Achim from Inner Space Explorers, you have Gus and Woody from Dive Talk, and you have several other awesome channels. Don't get me wrong, they're awesome, but they're very technical divers, right? They're already over the horizon, you know what I mean? And I think especially in that community, there are aspects of how do you get there? Like, yeah, okay, you take a course, but there isn't a lot of documentation of people going through, at least that I've seen, and I've absorbed a lot of scuba diving content, and I haven't seen that. And so I think there's some interest there of like, okay, like I'm an advanced open water scuba diver, which, for whatever that means, and I have about 25 dives. How do you get from my experience level to somebody like Gus and Woody? Maybe not to that level, but how do you progress? What does that look like? What skills do you work on? That type of stuff. And so that's just one example. I don't want this channel to be exclusive to scuba diving, but yeah, it's just something that I think about. And I think there are other things that I can talk about, like either technology or other hobbies that I have, like I play piano and talk about living in Hawaii and travel and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just figured this would be a better intro to what you're about to see, because in a minute I'm gonna transition to the footage I shot yesterday. And yes, I am wearing the same shirt. That doesn't usually happen, but I really like this shirt. The next footage is a video of me yesterday talking about gaining the confidence and the just finally doing it, just finally uploading something. So I just figured this would be a better cager for the following discussion. So about that previous footage, I was reading it back, or I was watching it back, and I think I decided that I just don't like it. I'm sure a lot of people do that when they watch their own videos or watch their own footage. They just think, this is crap. But I don't think I said a lot. I think I have on my mind a lot like putting out the first video for some reason. And I was talking about that a lot. Instead, I just want to get into talking about a dive I did recently, and I'm going to try to put in a few clips of what that dive looks like, because I have like an hour's worth of footage, so I might like throw some clips in there, see if I can figure that out. But if not, I think I can still describe some of it. So I'm in this group chat for dives, and you know, you can just reach out if you know, find a dive buddy to go on a shore dive with. And this first dive, we went out to Point Panic, which, if you're not familiar with Point Panic, there's a waterfront area in this place called Kaka'ako. It's in downtown. So if you know, Chinatown is the furthest west you can go in downtown, and then Waikiki is the furthest east. Let's say Kaka'ako is a little bit further west. And so yeah, there's some stairs there. It's a great little spot. You know, it's not, you know, it's not exactly a hidden gem or anything like that, but if you're a tourist, I would definitely recommend it. It's a beautiful waterfront, great for sunrise, great for running. That area, or part of it is great for running, great for surfing. There's some surf spots out there. And then also people use it for scuba diving. There are cats to feed, so that's pretty, I like going there a lot for the cats. But yeah, so there's some stairs there that you can descend in order to get into the water. The only downside is you're about, I don't know, 100 feet from a lane of boat traffic. And so having like a DSMB or some sort of signaling device, as well as like a buoy, a surface marker buoy, is pretty important. And so it was with some folks out of Point Panic, great little spot, and great, we'll get into that. But yeah, there was 5 of us for the first dive, and all of us very different levels of diving experience. You could tell there was one dive master and there were 2 side mount divers. I was a single back mount diver, and then there was another single back mount diver. So that was fine. Like, that's not the problem. I don't really think there were any problems. I think the group could have done a better job of staying together, because the viz was only about 20 feet that day. And you know, I'm not gonna call out people, but I'll just say what I felt about the dive was there are people that were like speeding ahead, and that's cool. Like, yeah, you can have like a dive buddy, like you have a partner, like you two stay together, and you know, as long as there's an understanding within the group that if you do get separated, those 2 will stay together. And I think that's feedback for future dive briefs is, you know, buddy up, and if you do get separated, you 2 stay together, and you 2 can return as necessary. You 2 can, you know, make your own return. That way everybody feels responsible to understand the route, understand their heading, and the reverse heading if necessary. So, however, if there is a dive master, I sort of also expect that dive master to act as a guide a little bit. You know, they're the most senior person on the dive. So yeah, we got in the water. There was quite a bit of a surface swim the first dive, and we saw a ton of turtles. They were amazing. A lot of them were sleeping. No, I don't think I saw any swimming ones, but they were all just sitting on the ground, or on the ocean floor. And then we saw a pod of dolphins. I can probably attach that video here, fingers crossed. And it's kind of murky because the viz wasn't great, but I've never seen so many dolphins together at one time, and so that was stellar. And then we did kind of get lost a little bit, because I think another thing, you know, what is the mission of the dive? Is your mission or your goal to find seashells? Is it to, which that's not really for me personally, but you know, is that your goal, or is it to, you know, get out as far as possible before you have to turn around? Is it, you know, you want to see turtles and just hang out near the turtles? You know, is it to explore the reefs? Like, what's the goal? And I think that was another problem, was a couple of people in the group had different expectations for the speed at which the group would go. And in scuba, I'm good with slow and steady. If my dive buddy is being a little bit slower, you know, I'll push forward a little bit, and, you know, maybe just, you know, turn around and go, you know, just make a circle around them basically. And because there's stuff to look at, you don't have to speed ahead. And so also, this was my first time diving Point Panic. I've dived spots further out, along the pipe and out at Sea Tiger and stuff like that, but never from the actual shore there. And so, you know, I'm not in any particular rush. There's plenty to see. So that was the first dive. We actually did get separated for probably about a minute. Not a huge deal. Oh, I mean, actually, it kind of is a huge deal, because one of those people was not particularly experienced. I'm not either, but based on their trim, you know, they did not seem like they had a ton of dives. Maybe, you know, I have stuff that I can improve on too. But, you know, that other person in back mount probably didn't have a DSMB with them. And so if that person without the DSMB gets separated in an area where there's a significant amount of boat traffic, I think that could lead, or they have an emergency, I think that could lead to some significant issues. And so, you know, the point of this is just to like talk about these things so that maybe I remember them, and so I can look back on what mistakes I made earlier on and correct them going forward. And then maybe have a conversation with people about why, you know, what they think essentially and how to improve. And because I'm not experienced. Like I said in the intro, I'm advanced open water with about 25 dives, so not you know, not experienced at all. The second dive, two of the folks backed out because they had stuff to do, and so we went to the we decided to, you know, swap tanks and go for a second dive. The dude's diving side mount, didn't need to swap, and so he was just going out again on the same tanks. And yeah, when we were heading out for the second dive, we ran into these side mount divers. There's three of them. They were nice, and we chatted with them. And the lead guy said, "Hey, there's a place called Nautilus you can find. You know, you go to the green buoy and then just follow 170 heading, and you'll find it." And I should have asked, like, what exactly are we looking for? And, you know, I wasn't too concerned because it's an open water environment, and, you know, if we shoot 170, we can just, you know, shoot 350 to get back. Not really a big deal, in my opinion. And hopefully I'm doing that compass math right. But yeah, so I didn't really know what we were looking for, and so we shot for it. You know, it's quite a bit of a surface swim. I don't know how far it is, but it felt like a while. And so definitely, you know, a little tired starting that out. You know, it was a good workout, but what is it? We descend, everything's fine, and we're shooting 170, and we're just swimming. We're just paddling along, and we don't really run into anything. We run into like a little bit of a reef, but not really a whole lot. And so once, I think it was the side mount gentleman. I'm trying not to use names. The side mount guy, he was running out of air. So okay, turn the dive. And here's the other problem was, again, the two people that were on this dive, aside from me, they had opposite speeds. One was really fast and one was really slow. And and so it did cause some issues. The guy doing side mount was having some configuration issues, and so I was hanging back, just, you know, making sure he's okay. And then the other guy was speeding ahead, and so I think that's wrong. I think, you know, just keep an eye on your buddies. Even if you're in an open water environment, I want to be within, maybe not within arm's reach, but like pretty close. Say you have an emergency, you know, you want to be right there. Give them your alternate, or you know, give them your primary if your primary donate, and, you know, be that buddy. And so I think that was definitely something that I would want to work on in future dives. Like, hey, you know, I don't know what, you know, I'm not an instructor or a dive master, but I'm like, I don't know, it just seems to make sense to stay close-ish. The other problem was the same guy that was speeding ahead, he wanted to do a box to get back to where we needed to go. And normally I'd be like, that's fine if you're starting a dive that way, but I was at about 1600 PSI, and the side mount guy, he was less than 1500. So it was like, okay, we gotta turn around. And the guy speeding ahead seemed, you know, he wanted to do the box method. And I'm like, we don't have the air. Sorry, but, you know, maybe next time we can do that. So yeah, we turned the dive. So feedback for me is, I have been putting off putting weight in my, I'm borrowing an X-Deep BCD right now, or backplate wing, and I'm fine, I can descend, no problem. Towards the end of the dive, once I've started running low on air, my aluminum tank becomes more buoyant, or becomes positively buoyant, goes from negatively buoyant to positively buoyant, and that starts to lift me. And so I need to put probably 3 to 4 pounds in my weight pocket, and I just haven't done that yet. I don't want to, I'm borrowing it, so I don't want to buy weight yet, because I don't know what weight I'm going to need for my for my actual BCD when it comes in. And so I've been putting that off. So anyway, it's a whole thing. So that's feedback for me, is like during my safety stop, I was like struggling to stay at 15 feet. We had been at a pretty shallow depth the entire swim back. So let's say for the majority of the swim back, we had been at about 25 feet. I felt pretty good about off gassing at that point. But one gentleman did have some issues with deploying his DSMB at the end of the dive, and because he went up with his DSMB, and I think it was just struggling maintaining depth while also deploying the DSMB. And I've only deployed a DSMB once. I need to buy one. I should probably have one if I'm doing the shore dives. But I think it's just a good lesson for me that if I'm deploying a DSMB, you gotta maintain your depth maintain your neutral buoyancy. Maybe start a little bit lower than you need, and so that when you release the DSMB, it doesn't pull you. Obviously you should be holding it onto the finger spool and it goes up and it's fine. But if you do go up a couple feet, you're going from 20 to 15 instead of 15 to 10 or something like that. And then I feel like the higher you start, and if you do get pulled up a little bit, that air can expand in your BCD and possibly bring you up to the surface. So, just avoiding a premature surfacing as much as possible, I think, is the goal. So anyway, we surfaced, he was fine. He did surface prematurely, and I was a little bit concerned, and because that's just not good for your physiology. I'm not a doctor, but I just feel like it's not good for you. And so yeah, he surfaced, and we all got back together and we did a surface swim back, it was a long one, and we did surface early. That was my fault and this other guy's fault, because we didn't manage our air correctly. So maybe instead of, for that dive or for shore dives going forward, it's not 1500 PSI turnaround, it's a 1800 PSI turnaround, because the first dive we were fine, 1500 turnaround, and we made it back because we're not fighting the current on the way back. But yeah. Oh, I totally forgot to mention, I'm borrowing my buddy's tanks, and the first dive, totally fine. Second dive, I notice a leak when I'm setting up my gear, and it's up by the first stage. And so I'm like, crap. And they recommend just wipe off the O-ring on the yoke valve, and that should fix it. And I did that, and I didn't hear any hissing noise anymore. And so I was like, cool, we'll press with the dive. And maybe I shouldn't have done that. It worked out fine. But when I surfaced, I started to hear that hissing noise again. And so I think there's an issue with the O-ring on that tank. Yeah, I think that also affected my air consumption on the second dive. Additionally, on that, oh no, actually I got that fixed, because my second stage did have a small leak in it, but this was after I'd gotten that fixed, so that wasn't a problem. I'm just springing leaks every, and so yeah, I think that's why I ran out of air so fast on the second dive. I will say about this dive master, he's like a fish. Like, he came out on the first dive with like 1800 or 2000 PSI or something, and it was like a 45 or 50 minute dive, and I'm like, that's nutso air consumption. And so, you know, I'm still working on that myself, obviously, but he has a lot more dives than me. And so, you know, it's just kind of crazy to see. But anyway, to get to the end, we got up, everything was fine, and then we all left. And you know, if nothing else, we've learned some lessons about, you know, looking for dive partners, and then being a self-reliant diver, I should have a DSMB, I should have a knife or a cutting tool, and I should have a finger spool, you know, attached to the DSMB and stuff like that. So, you know, just things for me to consider. I'm biding my time. I'm trying not to be the guy that's like showing up with all new gear looking like a Christmas tree. And so I think that's why I've put off buying some of it. Also, it's expensive. So, you know, it's always, it's an expensive hobby. So anyway, yeah, that was my, actually, you know, pretty exciting milestone for me, because those were my 25th and 26th dives. And yeah, so pretty exciting to be over the 25 dive milestone. And last thing, actually I have a couple more things. I know this video has been going on a little bit longer than I expected, but it's a lot, I don't know, it's fun to talk about. First off, I'm going to New Zealand in a couple of days. I'm super stoked because you know, one, I'm going with my girlfriend, and then two, I haven't gone anywhere for a little while, and I love to travel, so it's really exciting to do a big trip like this. And also, I'm going to be able to scuba dive, hopefully with my own gear, fingers crossed, that it comes in before I leave. I'm gonna be able to scuba dive. I'm going diving in the Bay of Islands, and I'm going with this dive shop called Paihia Dive, so shout out to them. It's not sponsored or anything, I just think I've heard really good things and they have great reviews, so I'm excited to dive with them. And yeah, so that should be a really fun excursion. And then secondly, I just finished my nitrox certification, so now I'm gonna be able to do some nitrox diving, and I think I might just make that, if I can afford it, depends. You know, I'll just try to make that my standard, and then you're taking on less nitrogen. It doesn't, you know, yeah. So anyway, you're taking on less nitrogen, but I think my gas consumption is the limiting factor, not really my NDL at this point. So I think it will decrease the amount of nitrogen I'm taking on, because my dive times will probably stay the same, with the exception of maybe my deep dives. My deep dives might be a little bit longer because it'll increase my NDL. And so yeah, no, I'm super stoked to do some nitrox dives, and hopefully I'll do some reviews of that soon. So anyway, thanks guys.